Welcome back to Football Coach, episode 14. I'm so excited to get into this new season after we finally started to have some success last year with those first couple of wins. I don't think we're going to be looking to get more, and we might not even match. I mean, there was a lot of luck involved in the couple of wins we did get last season. They were much better teams that we beat, who we caught off guard. Now, we're going to be facing a lot of much better teams again this year. So, yeah, maybe we could catch somebody off guard once again. But bottom line, we've got to get better if we are going to consistently start getting some wins. And that does start here with our offseason gains. And they're already looking good. The best player the team's ever had was one of those seniors in year one who was a 90 overall. We have our second and third best players now for this season. Our two returning wide receivers who are our top two guys. In fact, our top guy, Abel Morgan, is now our second best guy, as he's actually been overtaken by the A-plus potential of his partner, Reese Peterson, who was, I think, second on the depth chart a year ago. But huge gains. Linebacker. We had an 86 a year ago. He graduated. Well, now we've got a guy who had tremendous potential and as a redshirt senior makes a +9 gain. He's an 85, so we've essentially we've got a straight wash on that. I mean, we're within a point anyway. We've got an offensive lineman above 80 for the first time since that first season. We have more players right now that are 80 plus than we've ever had on the roster at any one time. 8 of them. We had 6 last year. We had like 2 to 3 the couple years prior, where we had 4 in year number 1. We are progressing. We are getting there. It is showing. Amazingly, one of our F-rated guys that we brought in to help us out, he's gained a +4. This was my junior college 74 overall, but terrible potential. We redshirted him last season, and he's gonna 78's good for us. 78 is good. That's absolutely at a contribute type level. Now, the other couple guys that are in that F range, we got a +1 and I think it was a +2 for +2 for the other one. True freshman, right? Coming in as a 74. Well, now he's gonna come in as a 76 as a true freshman, probably redshirt for the year. That's already contribute type levels. He's not going to make big gains year on year, but he's starting at such a high level that it's huge for us anyway. For another program, he would be a terrible signing, but for us, he's a big addition. Big gains for this lineman, a +7 up to a 75. And look how many players. I mean, we are down to 30th on the depth chart for a 74 overall, which just a couple seasons ago, that was the majority of the starters, right? Bar a handful of guys, the majority of the starters were 74s, 73s. We got 30 guys, 30 now that are 74 and above. Just adding the 73s brings us down to 37 guys. So we have improved so much on the depth side of things. Here's a lineman with really big gains. True freshman. He's going to start the year as a 72 overall. 54 of our 85 are a 70 or above. I think year 2, I don't know what the exact numbers were, but it felt like it was only probably about 20 that were 70 or above in year 2. It was such a step back from where we had been. That is huge. There's that cornerback signing that we got, the A-. Now he's an A potential and a 70. Still a true freshman. We still have not wiped the slate clean of athletes in the 50s. We started this offseason with 4 of them. We're going to finish this offseason with just 1 of them. And it's a true freshman with some potential. I could probably take care of that. This will be our first year, potentially anyway, if I do take care of that. This will be our first year where we have no athletes in the 50s for their ratings. Season 1 had 7 of them. It was a lot. We've brought that number down year by year by year. And of course, we're going to continue to bring in guys. I mean, this whole bottom end is potential, except for this linebacker who's dropped from not great to even less so, and only gained 3 points in the process. He's one of those probably expendable guys who would get cut this year. Here's another one who's dropped to a C+, but he saw good gains. It's a true freshman offensive lineman, one of the lesser prospects that we brought in. It was one of those signing day guys, Quan. Sad to see him drop off, but for the most part, we're still looking at a ton of potential down here. Just the sacrificial signing. This year, we're going to try to make none of those sacrificial signings. We are going to go everything potential B or above. Everything. Every single signing, regardless. We're not going to try to force in any of these. These are kind of my last ditch experiments to see what you can get. Fill some gaps. For those, very much was going with the juniors, except for that one true freshman wide receiver who had just tremendous quality right out the gate. But this is good development right here. And speaking of, by gain, we got 1 + 9, 4 + 7s, 3 + 6s, quite a few +5s. I mean, 6 of them, right? Through 15 guys with a +5 or better. Year one, we had a single +5. Now we have 15. The program attribute gains, the facility gains are absolutely showing up. The progress we are making is immense. Let's go position by position, though, and see how things are looking for the year, because we definitely had a couple positions that saw some really big drop-offs. Woodson, still only a +3 for him. He's a 78 now as a redshirt junior. I will probably, even though I've been focusing on the freshmen and sophomores, I will probably spend at least one of our preseason trainings to get him a little bit further along the way. But Cody Warren is now a 70. Patrick Shannon with an A gets a +1. Like, what is happening here? Terrible gains for the quarterbacks. +1 to +3 range total. Running backs, we get a +4 at the very bottom end, but otherwise it's +1 to +4. Nothing tremendous gain there. We replace our senior running back, who was a 76, with now a 76 senior running back, and we've got a number of seniors behind him on the depth chart. There's a 72 is the first non-senior. Yeah, we're still not looking great at the running back position, but the potential obviously is there. They're just not making rapid gains like some of the other positions, but some of it is positional. At wide receiver, upper 80s for some of these guys now, but the definite drop off after your top 3. We've replaced the one graduate with one more guy at the 80s. We do now have those couple of seniors, but this is similar to what we had last year, but even stronger. And lots of upper 70s, but our couple throwaway ones that were in there. Felix, he'll be in the depth chart, and he's a senior. That's a redshirt freshman. That is a redshirt freshman who's a 78 overall already. True freshman at 76. We'll have to probably make sure we just keep him out of the depth chart, let him play 4 games, and keep him out. Otherwise, because he would be, 7th on the depth chart? Yeah, we'll make sure he gets his red shirt. And our young guys aren't that far behind those ahead of them. We will get more guys in that upper 80s category. Tight end. We have an 81. We have an 81 at tight end. We have an 80+ athlete at the position for the first time. We were in the upper 60s year 2. Year 3 we were at like 71. Last year we're finally getting somewhere at a position that's been difficult to recruit. It's been difficult to find quality. We're making gains. Potential is increasing for like all of these guys, and they made solid gains. But this is a really nice +4 for Holmes. And remember, we had 3 guys. We had to give up one of them. We lost our second best guy. No, we're good. We we improved at that position a lot from last season. First 80+ offensive linemen since year 1. decent depth behind him. I mean, we're at 74, down to 6th on the depth chart. We're at 72, down to 9th on the depth chart with a true freshman. I don't know how I can avoid him playing this season because the drop off behind him, right? That's going to be a tall order to try to preserve a red shirt with him. He might just have to be a 4-year kind of guy. We'll keep an eye on that. This guy's definitely not going to red shirt. This one is a little easier to go, yeah, let's not use a red shirt for him. We can just have him play. But that's going to be asking a lot. Maybe we pick a few key games and let this freshman play those key games and give us that extra depth for the more winnable kind of games. +3 at kicker. Not bad. +4 for the guy behind him. +2. We're going to redshirt this guy this year for sure. Obviously, now that we are starting to win things, we're backing off on the pace, right? We are getting more in depth on what we have with the depth chart, with the growth of the players. There's going to be a lot more detail going forward, which means no more squeezing a whole season into 2 episodes. And definitely at this rate, I don't think we're going to squeeze it into 3 either. But we're still going to be probably a 2-win, 3-win, bottom end of the table type team. So it's going to be a while before we really slow it down. But for right now, there's so much excitement that I'm slowing it down a little more than maybe I will next season if we're still, just hovering around a 2-win, 3-win kind of team until we really properly get competitive. But we've been waiting for this moment. And for that, I couldn't say no. 2 guys in the 80s for the D-line. That's fantastic. But then, wow, the drop-off. It's a -9 behind that. These 2 are going to be playing most every down and hopefully stay healthy because, wow, the D-line is just hurting after that. Same with linebacker. Drop-off is substantial from an 85 down to a 77, but it's still guys in the 70s. This is what I was talking about before, though, where we had so many key players that were down in that 72, 73, 74 range. Well, the D-line is suffering from that right now. The linebackers are going to suffer from that this season. We don't have the depth. We have a few really quality players, but then the depth behind them is lacking, and the potential in this linebacker core is it's not great. It's been a hard position to recruit for us. We've done a little bit better with it this last year than what we had been doing. Wow. What? Our true freshman at a 70 overall is already one of the best we have. 3 redshirt juniors to lead the way. Oh, wow. A bunch of redshirt freshmen behind. I think we have to make sure we redshirt Byrne. I mean, he's only a 70, right? Give him his 4 games and then redshirt him otherwise. So we'll have to do the same thing here, but holy crap, that hurts. Oh, our defense is going to be really bad this season. Really bad. And we're down to a 76 at safety, too. We did have a lot of seniors. I did notice that last year, that we had a lot of seniors in that defensive group. And this is one that we have not been able to recruit well. And now it really shows. Ouch. The offense, best we've ever had. But defense, this is going to be a rough year. Good news on that defensive group is there's hardly a senior in sight, right? 1 D lineman, and then guys lower down the depth chart, and 2 linebackers. That was it. There's there's 1 more lower down the depth chart, but there's nothing in the secondary. That's one thing we can go and like be okay there. But yikes. That's rough. Really good first training session of the offseason. We have 5 of 6 gained the maximum, and the 6th one our redshirt freshman Patrick Shannon, quarterback, uh, he still gained a +2. Why? Because those training facilities finally have the minimum gain being a +2. So even that was matching a lot of the guys who got larger gains before were only getting +2s anyway. So with that being the minimum, this was really good for our training. For one thing, he actually ends up jumping Cody Warren, who gained a +5 in speed. We got a +4 in accuracy for Woodson. He's now a 79 overall as our starting quarterback for the year. We've got some freshmen running backs and D linemen that all saw good gains as well. 4 out of 6 seeing larger gains yet again this week. Strength and tackling going really big for these two true freshmen running back and defensive linemen. We have a redshirt freshman wide receiver who's now a 78 overall with some added ball security, which was a real weakness for him. +4 is not a huge gain there, but you'll definitely take that progression. So in the very first recruiting session for this offseason, I picked 40 targets, but about 24 or 25 of those were the recommended targets, this nice little blue button here, because they wanted to come to our program. The thing is about the players that want to come to our program, they're not good. There might have been a lot of 3 stars on that list, and a lot of them were the kind of guys we signed in year number 1. But out of those 24, after 1 week, the nice thing was because they wanted to come here and because the other coaches were recommending them, we already had some knowledge about those guys. We were at 25% scouting for that entire list. It only took 5% more. So I didn't do any camp visits. I didn't do any additional scouting on those guys. I let the 1 week go by and we got that entire list of 24. Then I added the next 10 guys on the list, brought them all to camp, which was enough to get them all scouted. And then I used my 10 scouting points to scout a handful of others. So after 1 week, out of 40 guys, I was able to get all 40 scouted. 32 of them are already gone because, as I promised, I'm only going to keep anyone with a B+ potential this season. We are going to exclude all of the rest. So that brought us down to this. This was the only guy that they recommended to me, and he's only a 59 overall and only a B-. But after that, we're looking at, hey, here's an A-. Here's a kicker who looks pretty okay, and so far we're the only ones scouting him. This guy looks like there's going to definitely be a battle to try to get him signed, and I don't think it's going to work out too well in our favor, but I was hoping with the junior college part that this 4-star would maybe go unrecruited. For the moment, though, that does not look to be the case. It looks like they are going to actively get after him. He's the only junior college guy on the list at this moment. There's our week 1 list. Now I've got to get after it again, refill that list, and go scout some guys. Everything B+, B or above, that is. B-, I guess, counts. It's still a B. Our scraping of the bottom of the barrel really is pretty far down. Okay, there's over 2,000 athletes in the entire class, okay? But we are trying to get as much quality as we can, and literally the first athlete who had much of any interest that wasn't being targeted by a bunch of schools, but both schools here are actively targeting, is a wide receiver down at 283rd. This is the first time I've actually gone over the list in its whole, other than later on in the recruiting process going with a bunch of filters eliminating a lot of the choices. But from early days, that's the first time I've gone down this rabbit hole. And yeah, we're going pretty far down the list before we found even a single athlete who had that little bit of interest in joining us. Not even a single medium low. This is one of this is maybe the second low interest guy that we've come across. Third straight good week of training where 4 of the 6 saw better benefits. And then, of course, the 2 that didn't still got a +2. We're still doubling what we got. So Definitely seeing bigger, better gains, but this entire group falls into that 60 to 69 overall rating range. So they're not an overly amazing group, but we've definitely got some quality out there. Rough to see a linebacker who's a redshirt sophomore only be a 65 overall, even after a +4 to his speed. Grand total is 16 of the 24 sessions we had saw bonus gains. But again, the other 8 at least saw +2s instead of +1s this season. So we are making progress with that, with the development. And the biggest surprise is our true freshman offensive lineman that I was talking about will probably be in the mix. Well, now he has to be in the mix. But I'm looking at our defense going, wait. The defense is terrible. I just don't know how I can justify redshirting this guy. We've got our first 4-star regular recruit out of high school, true freshman offensive lineman. I just got him a pass blocking +7. Pass blocking +7 has jumped him from a 70 to a 75 overall, which suddenly has him good enough to be a starter. He's the number 4, number 5 guy. It's really hard to justify sitting him. But I do think that it still would be in my best interest to find the 4 games on the calendar. Hawaii, Oregon State, Colorado, Washington State. Those 4 type games, the 4 weakest opponents. I'd play him in those 4. Sit him in the rest so that we actually get that red shirt. But what makes me nervous is the possibility that he would want to leave. But there's a decent chance that he won't. He'll be a starter from year 2 on. I think we've got to try to do that. We've got to try. But tremendous growth there. 75 overall as a true freshman. He came in, as a 63, got a +7 to a 70, and then we get him a +7 in pass blocking, and now he's a 75. Just like that. From 63 to 75, still as a true freshman, just coming out of high school. Wow. Just amazing what can happen with some decent recruits and how much further it could carry our program if we could start securing those guys a little more regularly. But for him, it was all luck. None of the big-time teams that were his target teams went after him. We were the only offer he had, and that's why we got him. Not because we outbid everybody else and outsmarted, right? We've only won a few battles. It took us 2 years, 3 years before we won a single head-to-head over somebody else, and that was going all in. Now we've won a little bit more than that, but the only teams that we're beating in those head-to-heads are the super occasional, super rare situations against the other very low prestige programs. We're not beating anybody else to athletes. They're beating us comfortably. Or if we go all in and they barely give an effort, they beat us by a small margin. But overall, the results for the week, this one was poor. We only got 3 out of 6. This was our weakest of the weeks in those gains that we made. But across the board, we've pushed it that little bit further this year because, one, the 16 out of 24 is better than what we've had a few of the years. It's not the best year we've had. I think we had 18 one of these years, so 16's a little lower, but adding those +2s instead makes a bigger difference. And I'm definitely starting to find, pick your battles, right? Get the right area for growth. Pick the weakness. That's an important attribute for the position. Definitely going after the guys with higher potential. 5 of the 6 that I targeted this week are A potential and freshmen, except for one at quarterback because we really needed a quarterback. He got a +3 to his zone coverage. He was a 72, I think. He's a 73 now. It gave him 1 point. So we have 2 corners that are a 73 overall. The objectives for the year are to once again win 2 games. The terrible thing was we did it last season and got 0 benefit from doing so. The athletic director opinion was unchanged. expectations is simply neutral. Not a fan of that. You should at least gain a little bit. I get exceeding it is going to do more, but to not gain at least a little bit of favorable opinion for doing what is expected of you, it's what's expected. You did it. You accomplished. Accomplish means success. Success should mean something positive. Anyway, here's the ratings for the year. So, offense. It's the best it's ever been for us. It's a 79. Year one was a 79. But it was 74th in the rankings. This year is 69th in the rankings. So a 79 is better than a lot of the low-end teams. Like top 70 for the very first time in the rankings. Defensively, we're down to a 76 though. We saw the signs there. We have a couple positions that are really, really weak for us defensively this year. But even though it's dropped to a 76th one, it's still not the weakest we've had. Year one was dead last at a 76. It's 76th in rank as well as rating. But it's not good. But this is the very first time, 5 years in, the very first time that both our offense and our defense are out of last place. That both of them are rated above other teams, even if only just. Receiver skill is our strongest. No surprise there with two well-rated receivers. Pass rush is good on defense, but it's fairly balanced except for the zone coverage. We might be okay if we play a lot of man-to-man. But our rushing skill and pass protection are on the weaker side, but our offense is absolutely getting stronger. As for our breakdown, this all came from an update, by the way. This is like the version 1.1 update added this in. Starters by class, we have 13 seniors amongst starters. Not quite half. We have 11 juniors amongst starters, 4 sophomores, and 1 freshman. Of course, that exceeds the total of 22. That's 29 starters according to estimates. Different positions, different formations. You're going to have a starter here, a starter there. That additively increases kind of the grand total that they have. But players by class, 22% are seniors, 28% are juniors, just 10% sophomores. So we have a very, very small sophomore class right now. We've gone much younger this year, and hopefully that has a long-term trend for us. Not that players by state matter, as we are in the middle of freaking nowhere, but almost 13% from California, and then Florida, Louisiana, Georgia, Texas. No surprise, the bigger states, bigger numbers are where most of our recruits come from, but you can see we are literally spread out all over the place. And getting a look at that depth chart, we've gotten much younger at that quarterback position the last couple of years, and we've got a fairly good one in Woodson now as a senior next year. He should be the best we've had at the position, and he'll be pretty good this season. He's already at second best that we've had. Running back, well, we're definitely headed towards being younger after this season anyway. It is going to hurt losing those guys, but Gonsalves should be decent next year. We'll be okay at running back, but it's going to take at least a couple of years before we really see the benefit of having younger, high potential guys and see their development, especially with the facilities improvements that we've had. But wide receiver, very good this season, and next season should be pretty good, especially when you start looking at the fact that we've got a couple freshmen that are quite capable. Tight end. This year, best we've been. Next year should be similar, but I'm very nervous about what's going to happen after that, as we've struggled to recruit the last couple of years. This past season was better on that. We're going to have a good year recruiting tight end wise, otherwise we're going to have a big problem in a couple of years. Offensive line, it's the best we've been since season 1 for sure, and in a way better than we were in season 1. Yes, we had a 90 overall offensive lineman, and behind him there was what was it, like an 85, but then it just fell off. We didn't have 5 guys that were decent. We do have 5 guys that are decent now, and so much younger. True freshman at a 75, a redshirt freshman at a 69, a sophomore redshirt 75. Right, there is
there is some depth that we've never seen at the position, and before long we're going to have lots of guys in that 80 plus range at the position, and maybe we'll hit that 90 again at some stage. It's definitely a year to recruit at the kicker position once again. D-line, I'm not too worried about the future right now with Marsh and Herbert. Yes, Herbert's going to graduate, but we will have more quality coming up behind us helping out. D-line is okay. Linebackers, bit of a concern. Barrett took that huge jump this year and really helped us out, but it really drops off quickly. Frazier is going to be really important. If he develops well, if he gets about a +6 going into next season and hits an 80, and like Boykin develops well, if you get good development out of those two, then the future is going to be fine. But next year could be a definite problem at linebacker. This year is a huge problem at corner, and we've gotten so much younger and much better potential within this group. Nobody's graduating. We'll be better next year, obviously, as we'll be better next year at the safety position as well. But I've gotten so much younger at both of these positions. But in the short term, we've got issues. So looking at the conference ratings, Oregon State does look like one of those beatable teams. They're 75th in offense, 64th in defense, below 80 for each. You've got a couple of vulnerable defenses in Colorado and Washington State, but they've got pretty capable offenses on our side of the conference. Hawaii looks pretty okay. Top about 50th best out of 79 programs. Preseason ranking being at 58th. Our preseason ranking is 76th. We're not last. We are not last right now in the rankings. That defense is a real concern this year. Took a pretty big step backwards. Offense heading in the right direction. They're going to do a little bit more, but it's going to be hard to get stops on defense. Texas is the preseason number one, the only current 10-star program. And Tulane has virtually identical rankings to us, but behind. They are a few spots behind in offense. They are one spot behind in defense. And Tulsa, dead last in everything, offense and defense, a 75-76. That is a very winnable game if we were playing them. But looking at the nearby rankings, Indiana, Virginia, whoever Winston-Salem is, they are all teams that are on that more beatable side, whoever Philadelphia is, and then Oregon State, right? There's definitely some winnable teams that can be beat, really all the way up to who this program is. All of them are pretty beatable. Rutgers, East Carolina have pretty solid offenses with really weak defenses, but the bottom end, 66th on down to 78th, are all on that weaker side. So even though this is kind of a down year for us in a way, the slow, steady build of the offense has continued, but that step back on defense, while yes, it makes me nervous, there are so many more lower ranked teams in that below 80 range. I mean, Kansas all the way up at 47th is 78-80. So looking at the calendar and any opportunities that we have before we wrap this episode up. So LSU, much too good. Washington may not be ranked. They had a rough year last year, but they seem to have rebounded very well. Strong offense and defensive ratings. Arizona State is the weakest we'll have seen in the first phase of the season, but they are going to be pretty tough as well. 81-82. UCLA solid at 84-84, and then there's that first winnable game, but it's on the road against Oregon State. Alabama looks strong. Hawaii looks tough. This is probably the best ratings we've seen for them, and they've been kicking our butts for years. Maybe something to do with that rivalry. Arizona, weak defense, but strong offense. Utah, Oregon, Nebraska, USC. Well, picking out 4 games. Obviously, Oregon State and Hawaii. You've got to go with the 2 Arizona schools, I think, for the other opportunity to maybe do something. If we're going to put some younger players in, that's 4 games you want to let them play. So the big thing will be hoping we could stay healthy through the earliest games and give us a chance. Give us a chance to get a couple wins again this season. But with the way our defense is, I'm pretty nervous about our chances of doing so, even though we're not ranked last. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.